Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 52 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark, and I really hope you know that by now because we're on episode 52 and it is called Mark and Me. On today's episode, we're going to be getting back into music. So on a couple of weeks ago, we had comedy, but you know I love my bands, you know I love my music, so today I'm joined by the frontman from the band Black Peaks, Will Gardner. This is an interview that I've had for I think I've been planning it for about 6 months. It was meant to happen a couple of occasions due to illness and just stuff not working out. It's only just taken place now while the band are on tour. And it's been awesome to catch up with the band themselves. I got to see them live because they're supporting Enter Shikari. And I'm absolutely thrilled that the interviews took place and it's finally here for you all. As I said just a moment ago, on the last episode it was comedy. I was joined by James Acaster. This interview has been my most successful that I've ever released since I'd launched Mark and Me. The numbers were absolutely insane. It was my most downloaded, my most streamed. It got to the highest position on iTunes. I had a number 5 in the world of all TV and film podcasts. That's not just the UK, that's in the whole world. And I think this massively is to do with the fact that James took the time to retweet it to all of his followers. And I'm so grateful to all the new people that have jumped on board, and welcome to the podcast. I really hope you stick around for the long run because it's not just comedians. I have actors, directors, musicians, bands, whatever it is. If someone's got a good story, I'm going to try and do my best to share it via Mark and Me. So as I just said, on today's episode I'm joined by Will from Black Peaks. Black Peaks for me are probably the best British band on the scene right now. An absolute unbelievable live band. Their album that came out last year, All That Divides, is easily my album of the year. It was Thrice for about 6 months and then they released this and it completely blew everything else out of the water. It's absolutely unbelievable and I urge you all to go on Spotify or go to your local record shop and check it out because it's absolutely flawless. There's 9 tracks and there's no filler. Every single song could be a single. It is that good. Now, I know I'm waffling and I'm talking too much and you probably just want to get to the interview. Here's my interview with me and Will from the band Black Peaks. First of all, thanks for joining me today on the Mark and Me podcast. Man. It's great to finally be here with you.
That's an honour.
Right now we're in the tour van, which is nice ambience.
It's a little cold, but it's alright, isn't it?
For those first-time listeners of the podcast that are checking out Black Peaks right now, I want to take it back right to the start. Mm-hmm. And what was it that made you decide to actually form a band?
Well, I was already in another band, and I don't actually usually really talk about this, but I've been in this other band for just under 7 years. They were called Liturgy, and it had just got a bit stale. We were like prog metal band, and they kicked me out.
Shit.
Actually, yeah, because they said I couldn't sing, and it just got I was completely shocked because we've been doing it for ages and I've been they've been going for 10 years and I've been in it for 7 of them, and like this new bass player came in and he just kind of thought he was I don't know, it was very complicated, but like basically he kind of became a bit of an ego and he wanted what was right for the band, and to be honest, it was probably the best thing for them and for me and stuff. And then, they kicked me out, and then I was just so shocked because it had been such a huge thing, and it felt like a waste of 6 years, you know.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it? Like to then say sorry you can't sing. It's like, well, I've been doing it for 6 years.
What was I doing before?
Like, what suddenly changed?
And they went really tech and wanted to become the new Yes.
Right.
And yeah, the day afterwards, literally the day after that, like I put up a statement on Facebook saying I'm pissed off, blah 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 blah, and then Andrew from Peaks, well, what is now, called me and said, hey man, like you probably don't remember me. Oh no, he messaged me on Facebook first and was like, I heard about this, you left, we'd love for you to come and have a jam and check out our music, we're a really big fan of your singing.
Awesome.
I was like, oh, that's amazing. And at first I was just so angry and I didn't necessarily really want to do it, and then we went and had a jam, and they were just so good.
Yeah.
The three of them, Andrew, Joe and Liam, had been jamming for 6 months, and they already had like 5 structures of kind of like songs, and it was way more like techie kind of Mars Volta back then when we first started, and I just dug that like, big time, but they were just like, just do your thing and we'll kind of work around it. And I started what I still do now, which is like, they write some of the musical bits, and then I will kind of chop it up a bit and try and make it work a bit more around what I do. But then I made it much heavier.
Yeah.
Like I brought in a much more like metal and kind of prog.
Yep.
And I think maybe with Joe a bit, like we started listening to other music, and we all got into Mastodon together, and then that pushed us way more into the kind of heavy, proggy kind of realm.
It's not a bad thing, is it? Like, I know it's negative that you got kicked out, but it kind of led to this. So if that didn't happen, you wouldn't be here now.
Yeah, for sure. I was obviously still really angry with them for a few months, and then we just like had loads of chats when we first started, and we were called Shrine. Yeah. We actually, they wanted to be called Shrines.
Shrines.
Yeah.
Right.
And I had a thing about plurals.
Yeah.
Like I absolutely was like really had a thing about.
I'd forget it as well. Like, who's playing tonight? Shrines. I don't know.
Yeah, and they were like, oh no, but it's kind of cool. And I was like, I'm not being in a band called Shrines.
No.
And they're like, oh okay, because we'd done loads of touring before with loads of bands around that were all pluralised.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So when you were obviously growing up, and you said then you as a band listening to stuff like Mastodon, but what was your favourite sort of bands growing up that shaped your music taste? It must be stuff like Tool and...
Yeah, I mean, but I got into them very late.
Yeah.
I got into Tool when 10,000 Days came out. For me, like, I think the first, like, rock music, and I know lots of people would probably say this doesn't count, but early Red Hot Chili Peppers was what...
Yeah.
Like... kind of I was into funk and like James Brown, and because I'm a saxophonist as well, and so I got really into that kind of stuff, and my first proper band played Chili's covers, and that was like how we kind of got into playing rock music. And then when I was like 14ish, and then when I was 15, I properly discovered Slipknot,
right,
and Slipknot and Mudvayne and all of that era that was
sort of Kerrang, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually get Kerrang at the time. I just loved the aesthetic and how dark and like it was very disturbing stuff around the time. Like their whole thing was so violent, and like being a kind of moody teenager that didn't really have a good time at school, it just really like resonated with me, and that's what kind of got me into it, which is all very technical and stuff as well, and just like that really got me into that stuff. And then I think I got into follow after that Sixth, like my favourite band at that time. But that was kind of the main thing, and I really didn't like the emo stuff.
No.
Around that time.
You preferred the much heavier stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, there was a real like, if there's any like younger people listening, I think it's all a bit more friendly these days.
Yeah.
Like between the scenes.
Definitely.
Like in like the late 90s, early 2000s, like it was really segregated.
Definitely.
It was like if you're into your metal, like that's you're a metaler. Yeah. And then if you want like punk, you're a punk. Yeah. And if you like hardcore, you're a hardcore kid. Like, and they did not.
There's no
meld really very well. And like, you know, there used to be massive fights.
Yeah.
We always used to get pissed off if people booked mixed like band bills, and there's a punk band on our bill today. Like, it's gonna be fights. Like, but that was kind of what Brighton was like back then.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? And in the nights out would be separate floors, like indie floor, rock floor, punk floor. And even if you're in the punk, it's like, well, actually, what sort of punk do you like? You know what I mean? It's it's hard work now. People are just like, I just like good music, and it's
Yeah,
a bit more
yeah, yeah,
acceptable,
yeah.
which is good.
Yeah, for sure.
So then obviously you brought out your debut album, Statues.
Mm-hmm.
How was recording that? I mean, the pressure of releasing your debut, at the time I suppose it must be a lot different to reflect now, but at the time you must have been like, fuck, this is our statement, this is trying to say we're Black Peaks.
I mean, we were still Shrine,
Yeah.
but no, we weren't. I'm sorry. We did our first big tour just before we did that record, Arcane Roots, R.I.P.
I was going to say I missed those already.
Yeah.
It's too soon to talk about that.
I know. They're super close friends of ours. It's really, and we owe them a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
They really kind of put us on the map. But we did a tour with those guys all around the UK, and then we went straight into the studio. But it was tough. I'm not going to lie. Like, we were really excited, but there was it was very different to how a lot of people kind of go and do their first album. I mean, the money that it takes to go and make an album is hard.
Yeah.
To like not make a kind of demo, to actually go to a real studio. And it was the first time any of us had ever done anything like it.
Yeah.
You know, 2 weeks in a residential place, and we didn't know how. Do you start with drums? Do you do all the drums first, and then do you do some guitars over the top? Do you do what do you do? And like Mark, who's absolutely amazing, who's our mate, had done albums before, but not on the scale that we all wanted to try and do.
Yeah.
But I think there was a lot of stress about the money side of things, like weighing over the top of us, because our first manager and a bunch of like family and like my partner and stuff all lent us all this money to go and make a record. And you know,
the pressure must be like,
honestly it was so scary, and we were all like, we have to do all these people this justice, because they're not only putting their faith in us and their time, but you know, when everyone's like, when money's involved, it just,
and it's not yours,
and it's not ours, you know, because we were so broke. Like, we for such a long time as a band were just absolutely fucked financially, you know. And I think not many people are aware of that with us, particularly. That it's never been easy for us financially, and it's the one thing that's always held us back. As it is with a lot of bands. But I think people have seen over the years that, you know, going away and making an album at that studio, and then the Radio 1 stuff that happened afterwards, and this band appeared from nowhere, and but you know, financially we were all still trying to figure out at every stage of that, like how do we still pay our rent, how do we eat. You know, the first smaller tour we did ourselves, like there was a few days where a couple of us actually completely ran out of money. Had nothing, and one guy was like, I haven't got enough to eat for the next 3 days, so unless we sell some t-shirts, so I'm just not going to eat. I'm just going to do water, and if there's tea in the venue, I'll have some tea. And I luckily had a decent job at the time, and was like, no, like, come on, we're a team here, and we used to be way more individual and have a kind of a bit more. It was before you realised that we were all a team, and if one person isn't eating and is miserable and can't play properly, then
the knock-on effect is huge.
And you're only as strong as the rest of you, you know.
And the thing is, like, what's weird is people's perception of stuff. Like, some of the bands that I grew up listening to, Hell is for Heroes, 100 Reasons, Reuben, they all worked. They all worked full time, even on their second and third album. People expect like they're like Biffy Clyro that are millionaires now and playing all over the world. It's not like that. These bands that are on their second and third album are usually working in Waitrose or trying to do some hours at the bar in the weekend, and people don't realise, oh wow, they're in Kerrang on Radio 1, that's it now, they're millionaires. Not at all.
No. It's not the 80s, guys.
No,
sorry.
not at all.
I wish it. Well, I don't wish it was the 80s. That would suck. The 80s music was rubbish.
The films were good.
Yeah, films were great. Music wasn't very good. But money was great for bands.
Yeah, well,
for making really bad music.
Well, the thing is, people used to buy records then, so
Yeah.
people would actually pay for CDs.
Yeah.
So now, obviously, you've took a big step up. I think on your new album, it sounds $1 million. It does. The jump.
Thank you very,
is
very,
huge.
very, very much. We
the
worked
production
really hard on that.
Is like me and my friend Darren. I'm not just saying this because I'm sat here. I've got proof on my other podcast. I've put it as album of the year, like last year. Like,
Really?
Yeah. But it beat Thrice for me. Thrice was number 2, and then you brought out your album and it topped it for me. It was
Oh man, that's
it was
awesome.
like, I've always said it's quality, not quantity, and like I'm like, there's 9 tracks. When I first bought it, I was like, 9 tracks, like fucking hell, I want 13. What is this? And then I was like, well, actually, every song could be a single,
Yeah.
and every song is fucking banging. There's no filler.
We wrote a 10th that was like the darkest, most disturbing Black Pig song that we've ever
You tease.
done. It's never coming out.
No.
It's not a B-side. Like the label were like, please come on, like
Yeah.
we want to hear some more stuff, and it just wasn't. We have such a harsh like regime in terms of making the music, putting stuff out.
Yeah.
Because we wrote way more songs for this
Yeah.
album. We wrote so many more songs, and like we just know when we get to a certain point with a track that we're like, no, we'll just bin it. You know, and we might have spent 6 months on it,
Bloody hell.
and it'll get binned. We never leave stuff behind. So we always try and write a whole record, and like we said, we even recorded a 10th track to this album.
I'm gonna get you drunk and listen to it. I'm gonna
but it's
it's dark.
It's really, really dark. It's the most bleak thing we've ever done, and we had a real idea for what we wanted it to be, but it didn't fit.
No.
It would not have worked with this record, or even like as an in-between or a solo individual thing. We talked about it so much, but it was just never meant to be.
That's fair.
And we wanted to do a video for it, and we had ideas, and then when we step back, and if you imagine, you've got like this finished we had the other tracks from 1 to 9.
Yeah.
We recorded it in order.
Yeah.
We knew exactly what was going to happen where. We jammed the in-between bits, in between tracks. I would be like, for instance, that bit in between Across the Great Divide and Home.
Yeah.
I was like, we need some weird like sci-fi strings,
That gels it
scary,
together,
just in the moment
Yeah,
after
yeah.
we'd finished, I was like, and we were all like, yeah, get the effects pedals out, experiment for a while, and then we kind of jam those bits. But then we had this other song. So imagine we get to track 9, and you've got to the end of Fate,
Yeah.
and then you're like,
It finishes nicely though, doesn't it? It just wraps it up. Yeah, it's done.
It's wrapped up, and then we were all like, it's not going to fit anywhere else on the record, and that was it. We were like, well, it's never coming out.
You must listen back to that and think the production is unbelievable. It sounds absolutely
Adrian's a
incredible.
genius,
yeah,
man. Like,
you said the first time you had this pressure, all this money that was being borrowed and stuff, but you just sound more ambitious, you sound more confident, your vocals, everything about it, everyone's just took it up a level. It's not like, we're going to play it safe. Like, I love bands like Billy Talent, but you know what you get, the same songs, the same riffs, the same little wow, and it all works. So if it works for 6 albums, I'll keep buying it.
Yeah.
But you've just gone, right, well, the first album was pretty good, but let's go fucking awesome. Like, let's take this. I mean, the pressure now for your next one's going to be even harder.
I don't think it is.
No,
we're just going to spend. What I want to do with this next one is just spend ages.
Yep.
I just want to, if it takes 2 years for us to write the next one, and we write 40 tracks, and and then we cut that down to like 11, and it's a prog epic or whatever.
Yeah.
That's that. I just wanted it. I just really want it to be the best thing ever. And it's quite funny. One of my friends is a brilliant journalist who used to work at The Independent, called Renfrey Debman. We kind of told him that we were like going to get into the studio straight away in like October just gone.
Yep.
In 2018, and like maybe try and write another record and kind of put that out straight away. And he was like, whoa, like that you wouldn't have experienced enough in between that period. Like you need the development, and I completely agree with that. Like I think you
can easily get carried away, but you need to reflect a bit, don't you?
Exactly. And we need new stories. Like we need that. I think for us it's a real human reflection in our music. I think it's always attempting to reflect our experience as like four people, and if we've mostly been kind of in the van or at home working since the last record was recorded, then we haven't really got anything to say. So we need to go and live a bit more life and do stuff, and then really think and spend a long time writing this next one.
How did you kind of mentally prepare yourself for those vocals? Because stuff like Home, that's not just your average recording. That sounds like you're going inside and finding this new level or this new depth. Because that's you can hear vocals, right? I love people like Billy Corgan. Their voices are brilliant and so that. But I heard something there that's so raw.
Yeah.
I can't even put my finger on it what it is.
Yeah.
When I listen to it, I'm like, I want to cry, because I'm like, fucking hell, man! Like Will's saying something. Will's talking there from his heart. Like that's pure. You don't get much more raw.
Yeah. Well, I think
because in the studio it must be difficult.
I was just no. I know it's one of my favourite places to express, and that song particularly. I mean, we were, we can talk about fucking Brexit or whatever, like, but I think, regardless of which side of the fence you're on or whatever, like, I think for us as travelling musicians that were in Europe at the time, it was just so devastating, and the people couldn't believe it. And like some of the countries we were travelling to around that time, people just couldn't understand it, and we kind of didn't, and it felt like such an emotional and scary, very right-wing agenda, and with Trump and everything going on around that time, I was just absolutely terrified.
Yeah.
To my core, of new wars happening and civil war breaking out, and like, who knows, maybe I was completely mad and was just being paranoid, or whatever. But it just seemed so real and so scary, and we were all suddenly like, what the fuck is going on? And two of the guys in the band had, one still does have, European partners, and that, the idea of them being separated over, some other person's agenda, like, was just so scary, and we all talked about that so much. And then I think that song came together really quickly. We had the foundations for it for quite a long time, and it's one of the ones that I spent way longer than anyone else writing the part, and we were jamming it in sound checks for ages, and I had like 15 different versions of the chorus that I'd bring in, and then the guys would be like, it's not quite right, and I'd be like, oh god, no. And then and then it just kind of all came into place, really. But yeah, it is real what you're hearing there. Like, none of us are ever kind of faking or trying to do. It's my favourite thing about this band is like,
it's real.
It's real, and it is our expression, and it's our kind of feelings, and like, but everyone cares about every little bit of it so much that it makes it really hard work sometimes, because we don't always see eye to eye, and like sometimes you're giving it all, but it's not enough. Yeah. And that's really hard. And recording that, the whole new second record was amazing. a real like journey, and I was really ill. I didn't drink for the whole 2 weeks, which is very unlike me. 'Cause I like a beer. But I had a tooth infection.
Oh shit!
As soon as I got to the studio, like first day, arrived there and like, yeah, I'm like, oh, I feel a bit weird.
It's a bit of a pain here.
Something's a bit bad.
Yeah.
And then like second day, looked at my mouth, giant black and yellow abscess on like the back of my jaw, literally the size of like 4 peas.
Shit.
Like just
yeah. You're like, this isn't
or
gonna
a
be good.
2p piece. Like
shit.
the back of my mouth. Agony.
Yeah.
And had to go to emergency doctor appointment and stuff, and then so some
that might be the secret.
Some of those takes,
yeah,
I'm actually like in agonising pain.
That's how you do it then. That's how you get that real sound. Just get a really bad gum infection.
Yeah. And then had to be and then I had like codeine and stuff to kind of
help
for the pain. But yeah, it was probably 2 of the best weeks I've ever had making that record.
I think what I like so much from obviously just talking to you now and realising is that it's quite real. Like I'm not dissing other bands, but bands like Papa Roach or Fall Out Boy that are millionaires now,
sure,
they're not really going to be in the studio being able to find those pains and those like that angst or that kind of rawness.
I mean, maybe they are though.
They might be, but the way that they're not going to be struggling for their money to record that album, or they're not going to be probably having to fight for their partner's passports and all this. So you've got something. It's not an advantage, but it's something that you can at least say is real. That fear that you had, that you demonstrated through your vocals, not everyone's going to be in the position to be able to get that recording, because James Hetfield, is he really going to be that angry recording in his mansion with his £10 billion?
Ooh, danger, fire, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's.
I mean, he's great as well. It's a funny thing that I know what you're saying, but I do also only slightly disagree, because I think the human condition is like, regardless of your circumstances, I think everyone has those bad times, and like even a multi-millionaire like James Hetfield and the guys in Metallica. I think I know lots of press people would be like, oh, you know, they're just rich, but they still probably have awful times when things happen to them that make things really hard, and they have this medium to be able to kind of get that out and express it. I think people, it's tough. I think because it's easy to knock the successful ones down, but I think especially their earlier stuff, I think there is that energy there in like songs like Sanitarium.
Yeah, definitely the earlier stuff. I think I only got to stuff like Fuel for me. I was a bit like,
give me fuel, give me back, and then each other's side.
It's not as much.
Not as much angst. No. Yeah, but I mean that's why I like, and we're like obsessed with some really like, I think really angular and quite difficult bands. Like Converge are one of my favourite bands in the world, and I hated that band for so long. I just thought they were like just violent, just sounded really like contrived violence, and Jake's voice is just so hard to listen to.
Yeah.
And then that No Heroes album came out, and I can't remember what the song is called. Oh man, it's just one of the really slow grinding tunes, and I didn't realise they had that in their arsenal, and just the intensity of the emotion and the like weight of their sound on that record, and suddenly it clicked, and I was like, oh my god, where has this band been my whole life? Like this is, and I think, you know, we maybe don't sound like that, but that's kind of, I think, if we can ever reach that level or that height of kind of emotional intensity in our music, then we're doing something well. Yeah.
The tail end of last year was great. You had your new album out, and I was, you know, I follow you guys on Twitter, and I saw something about Perfect Circle, and I had to look again. I was like, what? Like in Europe, Perfect Circle and Black Peaks, and I was no disrespect, but I was like, fucking hell. You must have been even like more shocked. But how was that? Like sharing a fucking stage with Maynard and that must be just surreal.
Yeah, it was.
Does it even feel real looking back?
Yeah, it was one of the most real things we've ever done. Not a lot of people know about this, but we. It was a very expensive run for both parties.
Yeah,
I won't go into too much detail, but to make it work, we flew in to each show with literally the bare minimum, like a guitar each, and like some cymbals and a bass drum pedal, and then hired some gear.
Bloody hell!
And then would turn up to the venues in like a little estate car.
Bloody hell!
Like arenas. Like 9,000 people or something in Oslo.
Jesus.
The coolest venue we've ever played.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. But this, it's like people should check it out. It's like one of the only arenas in Oslo, I think. But it's like an old-fashioned style Colosseum.
Wow.
Like the main floor has about 2,000 people, so it's quite small.
Yeah.
And then it's like Wembley, but if you imagine you pulled the stands in at Wembley Arena, in and then went up.
Fucking hell.
So you have like
awesome.
you have like 6,000 people like up, and then 2,000 people on the floor.
That must be amazing.
And it was just like looking up at the Colossus, you know, like.
Like just goes, hello, we're
man,
Black Peaks.
Yeah,
oh, fuck.
So much fun. Like some of the best shows we've ever done. But I think the coolest thing about us is that we're like so ready for those arena shows, like all the time. I don't know how it came to be that way, but we've just had this like real dogged nuts mentality of just like keep going, keep trying harder, be out there, get the best team, work really hard, like try and write the best music we possibly can, try and make the songs better, and then when we play the show, it has to be the best show that we can possibly do. And then we have the most fun, and I think we sound the best. And how can you say this without being arrogant? In the only possible way, I think we sound best in arenas.
Yeah, no.
But
your album's made for arenas.
But
it sounds fucking
how can you
huge.
say that? But how can I say that without sounding like a dick?
No, because
like,
you don't, surely you don't write an album to play in a pub.
No, but I think it's just it's really difficult saying that, because I think hearing other people say it, I'd be like, yeah, right. Like, oh sure, oh okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You want to play arenas? Write arena music? Yeah, great. Good luck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for some reason it keeps happening to us, and we've got, you know, we did System of a Down to 16,000 people the year before, and like Wembley with Deftones and all these things, and like, yeah, I think A Perfect Circle was one of the best. The big shows, like the actual shows themselves, were super fun. Although we had like until Paris, we had like some technical hitch.
Right.
Every day. I had, to be honest, for me personally, I had actually the best shows ever, every single night.
You and your microphone were fine.
Yeah, me and my mic were like best friends, just lollocking around on these giant gargantuan stages. And then like Liam's kick drum broke or something, the pedal snapped one night. You know, and there's like 8,000 people there, and we have no crew. It's just us in a car.
It's mad.
So those disaster scenarios, they happened to us like on those gigs, and we still got through it, and it was really great. And like, as much as I know, Liam was really upset after that one of the shows when that happened. Like, it was still amazing, and like the response from the crowd was great.
That's what I wanted to know, because obviously I wasn't there. I'd love to have gone, but was it really hard going out there and trying to win over an audience? They
were the easiest crowds. Wow. A Perfect Circle, like it's that crowd. Like they're I think, as much as we're not, in some ways, it's one of the closest things musically, stylistically, that we've played with. We're weird like them. But
no,
yeah.
you and them, or you and Mastodon, I think would be the perfect lineup.
We did that in the year before as well.
Who the fuck did I see you support that were quite big?
Bury Tomorrow would have been at Rock City.
No, there was another big band you came on, and I remember you doing your hands up like Jesus on the
that
stage.
thing. Oh, little known fact. The only reason I started doing that is because it allows me to, when I was kind of developing the high scream stuff, figuring out that I could do it, I found I was just always experimenting with my arms to try and sing for longer.
Yeah.
And then I put my arms out like that, and I was like,
and
it worked really well as like a technique.
You're not religious then, you're not coming on stage going,
no,
"Oh, Jesus, respect me like Billy Corgan," or...
No. No, it's nothing like that. It was just a singing technique. And then that song, Say You Will, particularly, when I'm having a really good show, it just feels right doing that.
Yeah. So now that you're touring, obviously, at the moment you're supporting, but soon you're going to be doing a headline tour.
Uh-huh.
I suppose there's no date really, is there, for a new album? Because you've already revealed that. You wanted to do it like weeks ago, but the fact is...
but it's not.
No,
right.
are you going to just enjoy playing as much as you can?
Yeah, man. There's still like a couple of 2 or 3 songs on this record we haven't played live yet.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
It's got big wings, this record. I think it will last us for a while playing wise. I hope.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with Statues, by the time we were out and touring it, a lot of those songs we've been playing for 3 years.
Yeah.
Already before we started properly touring it, and then we toured it for 2 years, and like that's hard because some of the songs you just get like
become a bit stale.
Mate. And some of the content for me on some of those tunes was just like, this is I don't want to be singing about this anymore.
No, that's fair.
Like White Eyes was about losing my grandfathers.
Yeah.
And some of the content was a bit
lyrically,
it was like angry and sad and kind of visiting those things. And sometimes for me, I don't like it if you play those songs too much and then you don't feel anything. That's the worst.
Yeah.
It's like when you just
you're like a robot
mechanically going through it, and then that's not good. Like
no. And that's why I think big bands now, like Biffy Clyro, probably don't want to play songs like 57 or anything off the... And you can see, like, everyone's going, play this, play that. They must be like, we've done it for 15 years. Like, those songs were about growing up. Now we don't want to do that shit. You can understand.
Yeah, or like loads of stuff off Puzzle.
Yeah.
You don't want to be going back to things about losing your mum. Like,
no, exactly. Miscarriages and all that.
I've done that therapy.
Yeah.
Like that, music is if music is your therapy, I think that must be really difficult. I can understand fans' perspective on that, but I think it must be really tough if you've written such a personal record like that. And then, I mean, Jamie talks about that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
He talks about, he's a good mate of mine, and it's Jamie Lemon. I've asked him about, we went and watched one of the cover bands.
Yeah.
Do one of the old Ruben, I think they did Race Car, and I was like, "You're right, mate." He hadn't said anything to me for like half an hour, like after the show. We went and got a lemonade, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, I don't know if I like it. Like it was just super weird. It's like watching my diary being read back to me by like zombies from the future." And I'm like, "All right,"
but I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, he's talking about those breakups that were 10 years ago,
and yeah,
still living in his dad's house,
Yeah.
So, what are we thinking then? Are we thinking another album at one point when you're ready? I suppose there's no pressure of a label. It sounds like you're confident that you're going to deliver something another level up.
And we do have our new record label are fucking awesome.
Rise Records?
Rise, that's just so good. Claire and Sean, like, I don't know if this is interesting for people to listen to, but record labels can be really difficult to work with, and it's so important that they support your music and your creative, like being actually the creative side of things can be blocked by record labels, especially majors. And we like, honestly, we didn't really have like a big problem with our first album.
No.
But it was just, with some labels, in our experience, there's lots of hoops and lots of things that just big labels will just do that make things delayed and delayed and delayed, and like, you know, and it's hard, it's tough when you've got this thing that you've made and then other people go, okay, we're going to take it now and do what we think should happen with it. And lots of bands get stung and get into trouble with that. And our new label are just awesome.
Yeah,
they're really like really all they want us to do is make more music and put some more music out and like, you know, keep things going. And I really hope they're kind of with us for the long run.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
Which is,
the fact is you're not getting told what song to release when.
No,
you know,
never. It's all
How
up
cool
to
is
us.
that? How cool is that?
It's so good, man. And they, you know, like us choosing to release Home was like a big a big debate with like our management, who are amazing and everything, but they were like, you could put out Fate and it's such a big kind of radio single and it'll probably do really well. And we were just like, no, let's do something for the fans this time. Like, let's put out a heavy, dark song. Let's do that. Let's make a statement. And and the label were like, fuck yeah!
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, and they were like, so what do you want to do? Like, how do you see it being visually? And that, you know, they're like dream makers, you know, which is everything you could hope for. We're just super grateful to be with them, which is awesome. Yeah.
My final question for you today is, I've asked this to everyone, if it's an actor, a director, a singer, a musician, but there's going to be people that listen to this that then go and try and start a band.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. There's Spotify giving you 0.0.0.1p.
Don't even get me started.
There's bands that think it's easy, but then you tour and you don't sell many t-shirts and you play to 6 people.
Yeah.
What advice do you give to those people that are still trying? Because I've been in a band, I didn't get to where I wanted to be. I accepted it, but there's people out there now that are trying, and it's harder. It's a harder world to try and get noticed. It's easier to get noticed because you can get on Spotify, you can get on YouTube, you can stream stuff. But
it's a really good question.
Tough, isn't it?
Really good question. I know what I'm going to say straight away. Just be nice to each other is the biggest thing. Like, be kind, be professional, and work hard, and be true to yourself and the people you're in a band with. And if you know that you're not getting on with the people that you're doing it with, like, if you're not having fun in the creative process, it's probably not right. Go and find some other people to do it with, because it has to be fun. It has to be super fun. You have to enjoy playing, and you have to enjoy the writing. The writing part can be really hard sometimes, but like, be professional and work hard at playing your instrument, because there's lots of people that don't practice, and you do see kids out there that come out to shows, and like, understandably they're a certain age and they haven't been doing it very long, but like, you know, get your shit together.
Be shit hot.
Because the people like that inspired us were all, you know, we still completely idolise, and better bands like Mars Volta and Gojira and like, you know, like, we absolutely idolise those guys, and that, you know, if you've got an aim of being like that, and you have to practice so hard. But we've been lucky enough to meet those guys a whole bunch of times, and they're such nice, good people, and that's what you have to be these days. Is you have to be, because the idiots and the arseholes just don't get there anymore, because there's no time for it, and
people don't want to work with them.
Yeah, and you see those bands disappear really quickly. So, and the worst, it's always at the worst, at the bottom. Like when you're working your way up, it's always when it's the worst. That's when people treat each other like shit, because they think that they're better than they are. And we found, like, we were always really courteous, really civil, and you know, be nice guys first, and then I think that got us further than anything else. You know, before the music is just
respectful.
Be respectful. Know what I mean?
It's a massive thing.
Be nice to each other as human beings.
Goes a long way.
Yeah. just generally as well in life.
That helps.
There's just
too many dicks.
There's too many dicks.
Should we leave it there?
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect. So there it is. As you know on Mark and Me, some of the guests I get are overseas, in America, all over the world, in Europe, but the ones that I can do that are in the UK, that are face-to-face, they have a better feeling. They're so much more relaxed, and I think me and Will just hit it off from the moment we met. I love this interview. We recorded it in the back of the tour van, so you kind of get the ambience of us being in the middle of a car park just before they played their show in Leicester. What a great guy. Sometimes you're kind of a bit worried when you meet the people you respect so much, that you look up to and have such a admiration for, but Will is one of the nicest guys I've ever had the chance to speak with, and just a really lovely, down-to-earth guy. And again, I still think he's right now one of the best singers, one of the best frontman, one of the best lyricists, one of the best songwriters in the country, and Black Peaks are a band you have to keep telling everyone about, because they're not as big as they should be. They should be filling stadiums, and I just can't get my head around it, but they are only on the second album, and I do believe that they'll be, in a few years' time, absolutely huge, and they'll be on the main stage at some of these huge UK festivals. And, you know, if you can spread the word by listening to Mark and Me and you think, man, this band's awesome, get on social media, you know, share their album, retweet their stuff, go on Facebook, talk about them, tell your friends about them, because they really do need to be bigger than they are. They're absolutely awesome. And you're probably thinking, shut up, Mark, okay, we get it, but I am that passionate about this band, and seeing them live only last week, wow. And I'm looking forward to seeing them again shortly on their own UK tour. It's only a small tour, but if you are listening right now, you've still got a chance to get tickets, so please go on Black Peaks' website and check it out, because there's some really good local shows. And just go and see him. It's the best way to be introduced to a new band. I took my friend with me last week, Nick. He'd never heard of them before, and he came away and was like, yep, we'll go to their headline show. And it just took one support slot for him to be convinced. On the Skip to the End podcast, my other podcast, I put this as one of my top recommendations of the year, and I've seen so many people that have took that on board and gone and bought the album or streamed it, and they've all took the time to kind of let me know that they love the album. All That Divides is out now, and they haven't paid me to say this. It is my album of the year. It's that good. But enough about me talking and kind of being so lovey-dovey with Black Peaks, but you can probably tell they do mean a lot to me. I also have another episode coming out only in a couple of weeks' time, and you know the score by now. I'm not going to reveal who it is. I'm not going to tell you anything more about it, but it's not going to be long. In the meantime, because of the James Acaster episode, I had to extend my bandwidth because so many people were downloading it. It's costing me quite a lot of money right now to host this podcast, so anything you can give back is much appreciated, and I do that via Patreon. And on this month's Patreon, I'm giving some more great Funkos away. I'm giving a t-shirt away, so just jump on markandme.com and there's a link on there. You can sign up for as little as something like $1, which is like 70p, and that's literally the price of a can of Coke. So if you can just give me that back, that will make a huge difference and give me more chance to get out there and do more face-to-face interviews like the one you've just heard. Also go on my page to get access to my Twitter, my Facebook, my email. It's all on there. You know, Instagram, just support me. Like, share, do whatever you can. Let's get the word out there, because I've got a really exciting year ahead. In the last week, I haven't hardly slept. I've been doing about 3 or 4 interviews a day, and there's so much ready to release. And I'm so excited. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Thanks again to Black Peaks, and especially Will, for doing the interview. And I'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. And in the meantime, stay safe and listen to Black Peaks.